But yes, super, super terrifying. I do question right out the gate why they couldn't just have one shield and a sword.
Right?
Why do they have to have two?
Are you serious?
I
Look
mean,
how friggin' cool this thing is. It's like a snowplow made of fire and spikes.
Welcome to Monsters Multiclass. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornigal.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And we are on to part 2 of our big giant episode to pick up where we left off. So let's get into it.
Is that dog a giant too?
No, he's just a regular sized dog. All right, let's continue our way working up the ordering. The next one are the fire giants coming after the frost giants here. Kind of counterpoints to the frost giants, obviously. Though also some similarities. They are both very much martial focused. The frost giants being more the kind of the barbaric sort of brute strength type thing, where the fire giants are more about martial experts, as you said previously, Jared, or previous episode, depending on how you're watching this. They're kind of the fighters. They're sort of the battle masters, which fits very well. They're also forgers, which makes tons of sense as well, because they're the fire giants. They live in volcanoes and magma-filled caverns and use this to be able to forge weapons and armor and all sorts of stuff. They take a lot of pride in this and really making the best. And their ordering, each one has, you know, the hill giants is the biggest, is the top, and for the frost giants, that's who's ever able to wrestle down the other ones. The best is at the top. For the fire giants, it is the ordering of craftwork. The ones who, the greatest smiths and architects and technicians of giant kind, are at the top. So they are usually always very well armed, and that should show within their culture and descriptions. They will conquer humanoids. They are very kind of expansionist, sort of warlike in that sense, and they will use these humanoids as slaves and as serfs for work. They don't want to deal tending farms and fields and stuff like that. They'll put them to work in mines and things like that. They are lawful evil, and that very much shows in their treatment of slaves. They aren't nice to them. They'll have them just work in the mine until their back breaks, and they throw them into their coal pits to light the fires. And
yeah, it's
that's it.
Not a good society.
No.
It's the kind that I could see a party goes in with the intention of working with them and like brokering a deal, and then realizing, just looking around, like, oh, these are horrible, horrible creatures.
Yeah. Now, there's the little Volo quote, you know how they do in those books, the little like side thing, little flavorful quotes. It's, if you want forged work fit for a king, you have two options, dwarves and fire giants. If you don't want to be forced to slave in the mines until you're tossed in their coals, you really only have one option. The implication is being your option is dwarves.
Right. Dwarves are going to throw you into the coals. Right? Is that not it? Oh.
No, that's not it. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of stories of various humanoid races and different races seeking out fire giants to try and give them craft work and do stuff like that, and it usually does not work out well. They definitely see themselves as superior to all non-giant kind.
Yeah, that right there is a great hook, though. If your party needs something forged, and for whatever reason it has to be done by fire giants, if there's a group that I would think would be able to handle themselves and work something out, it's going to be an adventuring party over,
right,
you know, your miscellaneous king or something who's trying to get some work done.
Right. So despite all of that cool flavor and their martial prowess and their amazing ability to craft weapons and armor, their stat block is really dull. Their base one, at least. Armor class 8, challenge rating 9. Armor class of 18 because they're in plate. Hit points of 162. So even just that, let's ignore everything else. That makes these, I think, kind of a dull fight because you're just going to miss a lot. And when you do hit them, like they have a boatload of hit points. And those kind of just make for really long, dull fights.
Yeah. Now, armor class of 18 is kind of high, but I don't view that as... It's not horrible in the sense that, like, you know, players get to that easily. So yeah, you're mostly right, but you're not going to be fighting these things at level 5. Most
That's true.
likely
Well, yeah, you could. 4 level 5s could probably take one of these on.
they'll knock you out in one turn.
Yeah, they do hit hard.
They're gonna kill the wizard.
Right. So their speed of 30. Stats are pretty much lined up with the other giants. The highest is strength of 25, con of 23. Their lowest is dex of 9, intelligence of 10. So, average intelligence. They do get a saving throw of dex plus 3, though, and con plus 10. So don't target the con saves. Athletics and perception as skills like normal. Immune to fire. Makes a lot of sense. And then there's actions. They get a multi-attack, 2 greatsword attacks, plus 11 to hit, reach of 10 feet, and the hit does 66 plus 7 damage. And then they get a rock, which is identical to everything else. That greatsword hits like a truck. That is a 66 plus 7. It's an average of 28 per hit, and they do it twice.
That's a fireball per hit of damage.
Yeah. Right.
Or is that's 8d6. Yeah, so that lines up because it's plus 7, but that's
right.
More math than anyone cares about.
Right.
Yeah, they hit like trucks, and that's nothing new for any of the giants we've looked at.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's not even that much more. It's just a lot of dice because the frost giants are doing 3d12 plus 7.
Right, averaging to 25, averaging to 28. Then when you get on the hill giants, that's like averaging of 18. So that's but they're
it's different. Right, exactly. That's a major challenge rating difference. I'd expect them to do more damage, but I would expect them to do more than damage.
Yeah.
So as I was mentioning, the first thing I jumped to is their entire lore that I actually don't think you mentioned much is their martial expertise, is that they are raised from birth and taught to embrace the legacy of war. So they are very much going to be the tacticians. They are going to be the strategists in battle. They are going to love the fight and embrace that concept of a fight, which, as I said in the previous Frost Giant conversation, just makes me think of Battlemaster so much.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I went to that class, and it's just like, well, what can we pull? What would make sense? And I haven't decided on like any specifically because I really think it could just kind of be DM dependent what you want to throw at your party. But definitely giving them a couple of once per day abilities. If you just want to rip off superiority dice, that's fine. I don't think they need the additional dice because that usually adds to like the damage or the to hit. Probably not necessary, but if you want to rip that off, go for it. At the very least, give them some once per day abilities, like a trip ability.
Or match maneuvers.
The riposte of being able to attack after being missed.
Just let them do that.
Sure.
As they hit, you can knock them prone.
Sure. Totally up for that.
Provoking opportunity attacks. Just like a free thing. It's going to boost this challenge rating a bit, but nothing crazy.
If you're really that concerned, drop its damage. Say that, it's not going to hit as hard, but who cares? It's hitting better, and it's got more focus, which was why I was thinking, if we're just kind of adding fighter levels in an abstract way, something that would be potentially fitting is giving them a fighting style. But I couldn't think of any fighting style.
Surge.
No, I wouldn't not give them action surge. What I would
fun as the DM.
What I would give them though.
Weapon master.
That's what I was gonna say.
Nice.
Don't that no.
Do it though. Give them Great Weapon Master. Why not?
It actually wouldn't. It wouldn't be that big of a difference. Great Weapon Master is so huge for PCs because you roll in one dice plus whatever, and the plus 10 is going to outpace that dice. This one, the plus 10 is not going to outpace 66. It'll be
no. I meant the other one for fighters. Where you reroll ones and twos.
No, Great Weapon Fighting. That's what you're thinking of. Do not give them Great Weapon Fighting. That's actually
that's 66.
Sorry. That was actually my original thought process. I went off there. Is if you look at giving them a fighting style, nothing really fits besides Great Weapon Fighting or defense. Raising their AC +1 is stupid. Don't do that. And then letting them reroll ones and twos off of their greatsword is a bad idea. very bad idea.
Funny though.
It is pretty funny,
Yeah,
but it's
they roll too many dice to do that. Yeah,
way too many. Yeah, that's
and raising their AC is not dumb. It's just not interesting. Like it's not going to be noticed.
yes. That's
Yeah.
a better way of putting it. It's not fun by any means for the same reasons that an AC of 18 you were saying isn't very fun. An AC of 19 doesn't make it a more fun fight.
Right.
So yeah, the only issue I have with Great Weapon Master is I don't know how much the PCs are going to notice. You definitely would have to flavor that, where it's like trying to take specific strikes, and I think it would need to be in conjunction with trying to give itself advantage. So knocking things prone with some of these Battle Master maneuvers, and then going for these more reckless attacks, as they kind of are. I know that's a little confusing, as it's not a reckless attack, but the Great Weapon Master, it's the -5. That'll give them a +6 to hit, which might miss, honestly, much more than a +11 is going to miss.
Yeah. Yeah, as is, I don't think that would be worth it. -5 to hit to get +10 when they're already doing 66.
Yeah, it's
Plus
probably better
7?
for them to just hit.
Yeah,
Which is-
I would rework it. Like it kind of use like take the core concept of it, where like it's harder to hit and then do more. And since the 66 + 7 is so much, maybe their base it's halved. It's 3d6 + 7. And then if they could do this Great Weapon Master hit, they get their full 66 + 7. And then that's where you also, so it kind of lowers the damage to balance that out, but then you also allow them to do trip and knocking prone on hit
Sure.
to try and get advantage and things like that. Just trying to like, keep that challenge rating around the same.
Perfectly reasonable. I think it also makes their crits a little bit more palatable, because right now if they crit, that's 12d6 damage.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, just a lot compared to, in this case, 66 damage, and you're getting that +10. So it definitely, giving them those maneuvers is going to increase their challenge rating a little bit. But I think you're actually on the right mindset here of decreasing their base damage, because just having them hit really hard doesn't make them interesting. Giving them ways to, if they get the upper hand, absolutely destroy you, that's a little bit more interesting.
Right. Yeah.
The variant, for the record, kind of went at this in a little blunter way. They have tackle, so if they move into your space, you make a DC 19 strength saving throw or get knocked prone. At which point, the rest of their turn, they can just beat the shit out of you.
Sure. I'd almost rather the Frost Giants have that.
Yeah.
That is a rough one, though.
Oh, yeah.
A huge creature just now freely moving through spaces while you fail saves and turning you into an advantage target. That's
Without a doubt, that's pretty rough.
a lot.
Mm-hmm. And we bring up these variants a lot. Just to clarify, these are specifically in Storm King's Thunder, so you do not have access if you don't own that book. So it's not like a common thing that a lot of people have.
Right.
Not like Monster Manual and Volos. So it's kind of hard to go into all those saying, oh yeah, do all these, but you have to specifically buy this adventure.
Or just steal it from our podcast.
And
I say though, just looking at the Battle Master maneuvers, a couple of them they're just interesting, like brace, disarming attack.
Right.
That'd be so cool. A fire giant just smacking your weapon out of your hands. That sucks.
Right.
It really sucks. But
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Like then parry.
Yep.
Get some defense in there. Riposte.
Yeah. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from a giant whose entire thing is being the martial character.
Right. Oh, sweeping attack. That would be perfect.
Which one's that again?
Where you could, when you attack, you could choose another creature within 5 feet from
Yes.
within your reach and hit it too.
Yeah, so I looked at that one, and my only reasoning against it was I had this, like, I wonder if that'll make the players ask too many questions as to why giants can't just do that all the time. Like this thing's sword.
Because it would ruin every single fight.
Sure, but this thing's sword is like, it makes the Dragon Slayer from Berserk look like a small sword. This thing is literally 12 feet long. And
This is like a Viking dinner table with sharp edges.
right.
Yeah, it's basically as tall as a... Yeah, it's pretty much as tall as the fire giant, and the fire giants are 18 feet tall, so...
That's huge. And you're telling me that it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I can only attack one thing at a time. Why? Because it would be rude otherwise. So that's again just if you want to have these ideas of giants feeling huge, because they do and they don't. I think there's some mechanical ways to reflect that. And just to give credit where credit is due, a lot of the idea of that feeling massive came from a conversation on Twitter once again with Varsuvius and Halo Freak 1171. So yeah, I could see fire giants of any of these being able to swing and hit 2 creatures at a time. So sweeping attack is a great way to reflect it.
Mm-hmm.
The others, you could say that they're not smart enough, or they're just not skillful enough, and they're just lift up, slam down, lift up, slam down. Whereas these guys, they have a sword, a slashing sword, so they are going to slash with it.
And this is another one that is really easy to do your little rock thing that I totally disagree with, because
okay,
you can make incredibly hot rocks and throw them at people.
Yes,
and
you
it
can
will burn them.
Oh, okay,
now,
right.
They can't do that, but they live in an environment where those things would probably be around.
But you're telling me you can't make incredibly cold rocks?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, this one does make sense. Where they're immune to fire, so it's more like they pick up a glob of magma, and then chuck it, and when it hits, it's just gonna explode and get that all over everything.
That visual is so cool too, because they pull up the molten lava and they basically make a snowball, but of lava as it's cooling down. They're immune to fire; they don't care, and they're just forming it together. It cools a little bit, and they just launch it. And it just, you can do 2 things. One of which is you can make it explode, because when that lands, it's pop. As the center is all liquidy and stuff, just boom.
Right,
Now you have an AoE attack, basically throwing a fireball.
Right, yeah. I would pare down the damage just because they hit so hard otherwise, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do some fire damage. That could be cool.
I would not do 8d6 in a 20-foot radius. That's too much.
Right,
don't do that.
Right.
As an action.
Yeah.
That might be upping the challenge rating a little bit. That would be a really good way to have a very high level fire giant though. That's something that the head of the fire giants is doing.
Right.
A fireball per turn.
That'd be cool.
Will, you said earlier something about the sword. I had the visual in my head of, instead of them slashing with the sword, just turning it sideways and smashing people like a frying pan. They have this incredibly well-engineered piece of steel, and they're just whap, whap.
Gotta do that non-lethal damage.
Right.
I was knocking them out.
As they turn you into paste.
Right.
I was gonna say, yeah. Completely crush them.
You still good to be a slave, bud?
Just peeling them off. Come on. Oh, not another one.
All right. And then in Volos, the stat block in there is the fire giant. The fire giant dreadnought. There we go. So they're the main ordinary within fire giants, as we said, is about their skill as a craftsman. But if you are so incredibly proficient in war and in the martial aspects, you could still raise up higher in the ranks and become a fire giant dreadnought. These are the kind of the weapons of war. They're devastating on the battlefield. They protect their towns and stuff like that. And it is a fire giant with 2 big shields, which is equal parts dumb and amazing.
Yeah.
It's I first hear this, oh, that's dumb as hell. They have 2 big tower shields. But at the same time, it's also really cool. I don't know how it manages to straddle that line, but...
How
many of these miniatures do we own, Kevin?
17. We just kept getting them.
That would be a fight.
I started
using all of them.
Yeah, I started using them as bookends because they're so perfect as they stand up there with their shields. But yes, super, super terrifying. I do question right out the gate why they couldn't just have 1 shield and a sword.
Right?
Why do they have to have 2?
Are you serious?
I
Look
mean,
how friggin' cool this thing is. It's like a snowplow made of fire and spikes.
And that's basically how it plays.
They are weaponized shields. They have big
Yes.
spikes. And it's saying the spikes are hollow, and when battle starts, they pour hot coals into all the spikes. So just
So
make it hurt
cool.
more. Though I don't think... Oh, yeah, it does do fire damage, so that is... Yeah, that is in there.
You could do
So
that on the
they-
sword too.
What?
You could do that with a fire giant's sword as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just throw hot coals in there, do some extra fire damage.
Right. So these are a challenge rating 14, 21 AC. Just bugs me a little bit of why isn't it 22?
Right?
'Cause it says plate and shields. And so plate is 18, a shield is 2. So it should be 22, but I guess it's just trying to say, no. You having full use of 2 shields is too absurd for this. We're going to make it realistic and have the second shield not be quite as effective.
It's half as
Or it's
effective.
or it's a typo. I don't know. I feel like it should be 22 AC, but it's 21.
Does that make it more fun or less fun?
That is 21 instead of 22. Probably more fun because, again, you're getting into territory where you're missing a lot, and that's frustrating. Though, this is where your spellcasters shine.
Sure. And
Target saves. And I guess that's true with the base fire giants as well.
yeah, though this one, even more so than the base fire giant, you see this. You see it has 2 giant shields, and you're kind of accepting that you're going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a little frustrating, but what do you expect?
Right. Yeah, so it has 187 hit points, which is very high, and a speed of 30 feet, 27 strength, and the rest of its stats are pretty comparable. A little bit lower ends of actually 8 instead of 10. I guess just to reflect that they're not the craftsmen. They're not.
Right.
Plus 4 to dex saving throw, 11 con, and charisma 5. They have athletics and perception of skills, immunity to fire, all that's kind of the same. They have the dual shields feature. It carries 2 shields, each of which is accounted for in the giant's AC. Kinda. And the giant must... I'm starting to think it might be a typo.
No, I mean, they would have fixed it by now.
22.
Volos
You
is this old? You're telling me they wouldn't just update that somewhere?
Yeah, that's true.
How many errata have been released?
Right.
It's on purpose.
Yeah. The giant must stow or drop one of its shields to hurl a rock. So not a huge deal. I don't think these things are going to be hurling rocks. So it makes...
That also doesn't affect its AC. It says that it must drop a shield, but it doesn't say that it changes it.
Well, it's saying each of which is accounted for in the giant's AC. And then when it has its armor classes, plate and shields.
So do you drop 1 AC or do you drop 2 AC?
Oh.
Just
I hate it.
1 AC.
Obviously.
Yes, obviously. You now back to normal territory with a rock and a shield.
It's the common sense answer, but this isn't a common sense creature.
Right. All right, so it can make a multi-attack, 2 fire shield attacks, plus 13 to hit, only reach at 5 feet, 4d6 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, plus 2d6 fire damage, plus 2d6 piercing damage. So basically it is 10d6 plus 8 damage.
Nope.
Twice.
Nope, 8d6.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I was thinking 66 in my head. I was back on the other fire giants. Yeah. So hits pretty hard. It can also throw a rock, identical to everything else. And then it has the shield charge, which it can do in place of its multi-attack or rock attack. It can move up to 30 feet in a straight line. So this would be in addition to its movement.
Yes. It's basically taking
Yes.
the dash action.
Right. Okay. So yeah, the
Kind
giant
of.
moves up to 30 feet in a straight line. It can move through the space of any creature smaller than huge. The first time it enters a creature space during its move, it makes a fire shield attack against that creature. If the attack hits, the target must also succeed a DC 21 strength saving throw or be pushed ahead of the giant for the rest of the move. If the creature fails by 5 or more, it's knocked prone and takes 3d6 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, or if it is already prone, takes 6d6 plus 8 bludgeoning damage. So it has the potential to be pretty bad.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah.
And if you added some of those changes we were talking about with the regular fire giant, giving them more battle master maneuvers and such, ways to knock things prone other than this, it could be a very deadly fight to have a fire giant and one of these.
Yeah.
Great visual, though. Just feel like got to get that out of the way. I love it. The 2 giant shields, as silly as they are, pushing somebody along with them, just rolling their body. Yeah.
Sparks just flying off the floor like crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and a perfect picture like a battle. And then one side manages to convince the fire giants to fight with them, and these things just plow through the battlefield.
Sure, yeah. And that's generally how they're used, is in war, if a fire giant gets into war. And putting these at the front against a bunch of humanoids, I would run. I mean,
yeah.
I struggle to carry all the groceries in with 2 arms, let alone 2 giant shields that are 18 feet tall, as we've discussed. And on fire. They're 18 feet tall, on fire shields with spikes on them.
Right.
What sane person would say, yeah, let's fight this?
The adventuring parties.
Yep, player characters.
Yep, player characters. Yeah, like the art makes it look like completely impenetrable. Like I don't know how like a human with a short sword could potentially consider doing anything to this. Like just from like a flavor perspective. Obviously it can.
Right. Yeah, I mean it comes down to that hit point abstraction idea where a lot of it is probably going to feel like you're doing nothing as you're flavor-wise just smacking into its shields and kind of wearing it down. It would be a war of attrition there, where you have lived somehow long enough to get a killing blow. You know, climbing up its back, finding a weak point in its armor, and stabbing in is really all it takes to kill it. But getting to the point that you can do that without it swatting you off will take a while.
Right.
As for like why you'd use them, I feel like the only reason is, as we mentioned, if the fire giants get into a war and your players are on the wrong side of that, probably the right side again with their culture, but other ideas if you just really upset the fire giants while you're there.
Yeah, I mean, so it's saying when they're not called to fight, they maintain their strength by using shields to shove huge quantities of coal, stone, and ore about the foundry. So, I mean, they're still around.
Sure. Yeah,
if you made the really poor life decision of raiding a fire giant city.
That'd be cool. That's actually
you'd probably just die immediately, but yeah.
Well, what if a quest hook, of course, is that we talked about needing the fire giants to forge something. Well, they're probably going to say no. And then if you really, really need that, your backup plan is to infiltrate a fire giant stronghold and steal whatever it is you need. And these things are just going to be around maintaining the forges.
Right.
And if they catch you, now you have to fight one. I mean, this is tier 3 stuff. We're not talking about group of level 9 adventurers going out and raiding the fire giants. But if you're level 15, this is awesome. And the type of dumb shit that the players are like, we could handle that, right?
Right. It also says that they'll send these to accompany like diplomatic delegations and stuff like that is kind of like the scary muscle. And so if one of those delegations goes south and breaks out into a fight, a more controlled way of why you'd maybe fight like 2 fire giants in one of these things.
Right.
Instead of like an entire city.
As a level 20 party and you're bored and you want to decorate the side of your airship with these shields.
Yes.
That's great.
No, since they're hollow and you can pour coals into them to heat them up, they'd actually just be fantastic thermoses. Like a giant one. I guess a hot tub actually is what they'd be perfect for. Yeah. Is you make a wall of them. Yeah, you make a wall of them. And that's the entire quest line, is your party wants to build a sauna.
Right.
How does this sauna work? Well, we stole all these dreadnought shields and then we summoned water elementals and pushed them into them.
Yes, that's so good.
Isn't it dangerous? We're level 20.
Right. If we're not getting in the danger, we're bored. Oh, that'd be so good, though. Especially because, the way I'm playing out in my head is like the party initially has an all right idea of, well, that seems cool. Like they see it in passing. They go to the fire giants and they say, hey, would you mind building a few of these for us? And they're like, no way. We're not going to build those for you. And so then it all becomes this wacky adventure of raiding the fire giants, stealing their shields, probably killing a couple of these, and then having to drag them out as well.
Hey, those are cool. Can we have some? No. Then your society must end.
Yes. I laugh about it. It's like never the type of campaign that I want to play, but what a good one-shot that would be.
Right. I don't see how like a party of 4 could get one of these out.
I mean,
they're 18. They're as tall as the fire giants, so they're 18 feet tall.
Sure.
Level 20 magic, Kevin.
Level 20 magic, level 20 barbarians with 24 strength. You're starting to get past the point of it doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And pocket dimensions and such. There's some ways. You call a moving company, magic. All right. I think that's plenty for the fire giants, and we'd like to move on to something else here. Cloud giants?
Yep. All right. Cloud giants are the second highest in the ordering, just below storm giants. But though due to how incredibly reclusive storm giants are, and we will get to them next, cloud giants almost kind of consider themselves the top of giant kind. They frequently boss and order around the lesser giants to seek out arts and things like that. They don't so much like to get involved with other humanoid races, so to speak, just because they kind of see themselves as above it, and that they live so long. It's like 400 years, or might even be like 600 years, somewhere around there. It's just kind of like trivial stuff to them. Cloud giants, the main thing for their ordering is extravagance. So as we were saying, going through like craftsmen for the fire giants and size for the hill giants and stuff like that. For the cloud giants, it's the amount of extravagance that they could show. They like to decorate themselves in wealth. And because of that, they're not really interested in like classic coins and gold and silver and things like that. It's high-end jewelry and expensive arts and rare artifacts and stuff like that. They adorn themselves in it. They live in these like extravagant castles in the sky, quite literally on floating clouds or at mountain peaks above the clouds. And whoever could show the highest wealth and will generally obtain the highest status and be at the higher up in the ordering of cloud giants. That's probably the main reason you'd run into these if there's not some like big world thing going on. They're trying to get you to get them something they want, or you need to steal something from them. They have an ancient artifact.
Yeah, that's
things like that.
Endless opportunities there.
Yes.
I think the main one most likely would be needing to go to the cloud giants and take something from them that they have stolen.
Yeah. Which they wouldn't really like. Half of them are neutral good, the other half neutral evil, which is interesting. That's kind of based on the dual nature of their god, Memnor, if I'm saying that right. That's the patron god of the cloud giants.
That is meme lord. Did I misread that? Memnor.
Yeah, so it's the cleverest and slyest of the giant deities. So the neutral good ones kind of focus on its sort of silver-tongued and its intellect and stuff like that, and the neutral evil ones on its sort of trickery and deceitfulness. They like to gamble with each other. They'll place bets on various things for the different wealths, try and get up higher in the ordering, and they will often gamble on the fates of wars and kingdoms and things like that. It's considered a very negative thing to interact and like try and change the outcome of what's going on, but only if they're caught. So there's another reason you might run into cloud giants. Two cloud giants might have a bet on the fate of this war, and they're both of them in secret trying to pull the strings, and your party gets in the middle of it and is contacted by the cloud giants, and you kind of need to figure out what you're doing there.
I just love the idea of the cloud giants being secretive there, just like crouching down, trying not to be seen as they're 20 feet tall. I'm pulling the strings behind the scene. Like, no, you're not, bud.
I think these ones are what, 24? Yeah, Cloud Giants are 24. They're getting tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do often will rule, though, over various humanoid lands. So I'm saying they don't like to get so much involved, but they're happy to consider themselves the rulers of those lands. And it's this weird dynamic where they expect tribute to be given to them in the form of the various types of wells and extravagance they like, but they still consider themselves good because they realize they could just take it by force, but allow the humanoids or whoever to choose what to give them. And in their mind, that's a really big distinction and makes them benevolent rulers, even though the other humanoids on the other side of that probably don't feel that way.
And I think this is good for kind of highlighting that giants are not your friends. We mentioned that the fire giants seem like outright evil, taking dwarves and humans as slaves for mines, but no giant ever considers you his equal in any way. You are at best a talking horse. How he treats you after that kind of determines the level, but they're all above you literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of errands here. That lines up with dragons as well. Which kind of makes sense how they're at war. They're both just extremely arrogant races that just see themselves above everything.
It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm glad
in a lot of ways they're not
right.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, in a lot of the ways they're not wrong.
I mean,
like in their physical abilities and what they can do. Yeah.
They're also,
it's really just kind of like the infighting and the fighting of dragons that have kept them down.
Right. Right. Like if giants decided to team up and just take over the realm, there'd be very little stopping them. The fact that there is infighting and this hatred between dragons who would probably not like giants gaining too much power is really the only reason that humanoids as a whole have been able to prosper as much as they have. Horrifying thought.
Probably. Yeah.
And I guess that's, what Storm King's Thunder and Horde of the Dragon Queen are both about. Those campaigns are
right,
vying for power in some fashion.
Right.
Then taking a look at the stat block, we've got challenge rating 9. And I think that's equal to the Fire Giant, actually. Just flat challenge rating. Armor class of 14, HP of 200, speed of 40. No flying speed, which I guess is a little surprising to me, being Cloud Giants, but they have the fly spell, so we'll get to that. Stats are pretty good, not a single negative, with 27 strength, 22 con, 10 dex is their lowest. Saving throws in con, wisdom, and charisma. Their skills are insight and perception. And funny enough, this is like the first one that speaks common. Usually it's just giant, but I guess they've got that. And they have some spell casting. They've got keen smell. I don't know how much that's worth talking about, though.
It's just for the fun of it.
Why?
But why? That's my question.
Right? Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
I forgot
Jack
about
and the Beanstalk.
that. I didn't know. I know that I see the resemblance, obviously, but I didn't remember the smell thing.
Yeah, it's just because of that line in Jack and the Beanstalk and how he's able to smell them.
Okay.
And then, they have the whole, I didn't really go into the detail of the lore, but they have like these beautiful, huge gardens where that grows like massive fruit. Grapes the size of apples and apples the size of pumpkins and
pumpkins the size of carriages.
Yes, and carriages the size of houses. I don't know. Do you grow carriages? Yeah, and so that's... that's created a bunch of legends among the different races of the material plane about the extravagant fruits and beans that'll grow to the sky. So they kind of like they take it, the Cloud Giants are definitely not just like the Jack and the Beanstalk giant, but they definitely have not shied away from that comparison.
So then after their keen smell, they get some spell casting, and at will they can cast Detect Magic, Fog Cloud, and Light. And then 3 times per day, they can cast Featherfall, Fly, Misty Step, and Telekinesis. And then once per day, they get Control Weather and Gaseous Form. Not too many combat spells.
No.
Misty Step, of course, is a fantastic combat spell. That said, I don't know how much they're going to want to get away from the fight most times. Like, just based on their normal stat block, they do most of their damage within 10 feet. So it's not like they need to Misty Step out. I don't see much grappling them or restraining them, so a need to Misty Step away. It's a nice option that it's there, but definitely not that important.
Yeah. I don't really see fighting these things much.
Probably not.
I feel like they're smart enough and have enough kind of different motives to not just want to kill people.
Right.
You know, obviously back up into a corner, whatever. But then I could see them just trying to say, this is not worth my time and worth the risk of some injury. I'm just going to leave.
Sure.
And then they Misty Step and fly away.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think you're totally right, especially on the fighting to the death aspect. If we're going back to that idea of the party infiltrating a cloud giant society, if a cloud giant sees the people, they're going to say, "Oh, a rat. Let me smush the rat." Because they're just like, it's a dumb humanoid who shouldn't be here. Potentially. They might try and talk as well. But once they realize that the party was a threat, they're not going to stay and fight to the death with a rat. They're going to say, "Oh, this rat's very powerful. I'm going to leave and, get more people here."
Right.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see many reasons why you'd fight it, though you can always shoehorn something in. That's obviously.
Right. Yeah, I said if you're snuck in to steal something and getting mad about it. But again, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it'd fight to the death. Yeah, you did mention society, like a cloud giant society. They're not like in cities or stuff. They're pretty solitary. They'll have their families, kind of small groups, but
right
for the most part, they're very, very spread out.
And I think it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in Volos it goes into how they had a lot of societies in the clouds, but that technology and knowledge was kind of lost, so they don't actually live in the clouds too much anymore. I don't know if those would have been separated still.
I think they would have been. But then again, the picture's very clearly like a city in the clouds.
Yeah, that's where I keep envisioning.
Yeah, I know it does talk about it. I'm not going to sit here and reread this right now because I don't remember where it's at, but I know it definitely talks about, the technology of how to like do solid clouds and build things on top of it is lost. So there's not many like castles in the sky, and only the highest in the Ordinine get those. The rest of them are built on mountain peaks and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure if those used to be full cities or not, though.
Right.
Probably would have been.
But to go over their attacks, nothing that's going to surprise anyone. They have a Morningstar attack, plus 12 to hit, 3d8 plus 8 damage, and a rock, which this is the one that I actually would expect to not have rocks. Can't really throw clouds.
If you can build a castle on a cloud, you can throw that cloud.
That is a very fair counterpoint. Only thing that I would expect to be better reflected in the stat block is their trickery and love of gambling, like those ideas. I feel like you could do something neat with the stats. I didn't have anything really concrete, but one was just, I feel like for spells, they should have mirror image as just like a base. Because if I hear trickery, I'm going to the trickster cleric, and that's like kind of their thing is
mirror image,
yeah, or invoke duplicity, some fashion of that, of just being able to fool you from there.
Right.
They don't even have deception as one of their skills. You could easily give it if you were going to say that it was the neutral evil one. I could see deception being a skill.
Right.
Yeah, that's not quite as innate. They're not.
Yeah, that's fair.
Innately, that it's very their split nature is kind of hard to reflect in one stat block.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't need them to make 2 stat blocks just to have those mild changes. Yeah, otherwise, I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of an ability to impact, or what the other ones we've been going where if they're Ordinine ranked, something that to do with the extravagance, but
Yeah, I can't. I
It's
got
like
nothing on that.
those Final Fantasy attacks that exist in every game, like the Gill attack.
Yes.
Like and then every
it
Final
throws
Fantasy
1,000
game,
gold at you.
it does 1,000 damage. That's how it works, and it's just like a staple in every Final Fantasy game that's ever been. Probably, I have not played all of them, but yeah. So something like that.
Sure, I could see
Is
it.
an AoE attack with gold, because also then it doesn't care about gold.
It's definitely getting in the sillier aspect, but I still could see it.
Giant Scrooge McDuck throwing bags of money at you.
Right?
The other aspect, again, looking at the gambling portion, because they do like gambling, I couldn't think of a way to reflect this from a, I guess, in-world explanation, but I like the idea of just having some high risk, high reward aspects to them, of like giving themselves, I don't know, advantage, but they give you advantage as well. So that they're hoping that they hit, and they're hoping that you don't. I don't know. Something along those lines.
Yeah, or just some sort of like kind of not quite literally spell, but spell type magical ability where the roll a d20 and 15 or higher they hit themselves, anything less they hit whoever they want with it.
Sure.
And they just make it like really high damage.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like worth, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I don't have anything as concrete about those ones. I feel like all the other ones, I'm like, this is exactly what I'd add to make this better. This one, it's like, well, hopefully you're not fighting them, but if you do fight them,
Right.
maybe incorporate those and make a thing to add. Step 1, don't fight them.
Right.
So then we have the other stat block, the Cloud Giant Smiling one, and that is in Volos. And this does try to represent the duplicative nature that they've taken on from their gods, as well as the deceitfulness. So these are Cloud Giants who honor and emulate Memnor's craftiness and deceit above all else. So they have wonderful sleight of hand, deception, misdirection, and they're much more magical than the other Cloud Giants.
Yeah, and they wear a permanent smiling mask.
It's kind of like a
Well,
two-faced
it's half
mask.
smiling. Yeah.
Yeah, so half smiling, half frowning. They're not trying to like hide it at all.
Right.
They're trying to hide their actual emotions. So there's that, which is really, I wish that was more normal. Like I wish I could just wear a full face mask to hide my emotions all the time. These are challenge rating 11 with an armor class of 15, HP of 262. All comparable stats to the normal Cloud Giant. I'm not going to go through those. But for the spellcasting, they have the same innate spellcasting as Cloud Giants, but then they have additional. For cantrips, we've got Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation, and Vicious Mockery. For first level spells, Cure Wounds, Disguise Self, Silent Image, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Second level, Invisibility and Suggestion. Third, Major Image and Tongues. So a lot more spellcasting, for sure, and this is going to be a spellcaster. Can you think of a reason you'd fight it?
Same reason you would fight another Cloud Giant. You kind of backed them into a corner, or you tried to steal from them and they got angry and attacked. That sort of thing. It would need to be a very deliberate setup, though.
Yeah. I could see a Cloud Giant, one like this, attempting to deceive the party. Like that being a setup. This could actually be, in my opinion, more of a big bad evil guy type deal.
Yeah.
Where
I can see that.
They have conscripted the party to join and help them on something, and the entire time they're tricking them. And maybe the party knows just on the fact that this thing wears the creepy mask the entire time.
Right.
But I wouldn't, give them all of the lore. All that they know is it's a Cloud Giant who wears a mask. And again, as things come out, stories revealed, they're being tricked in order to get some form of wealth, of extravagance for this Cloud Giant. And then it ends in a fight. And it actually has a really good way of doing that because it has polymorph. And it can polymorph into beast or humanoid, so they might not even know that what they're talking to is a cloud giant.
Yeah, it's just an action. There's no limit on this. There's no time limit or anything like that. It's just any beast or humanoid it has seen. It could change shape into it. It keeps the same statistics, so it could cast all its spells like that. But kind of, it could do like the same Morning Star attack or Rock Hurl, which is a little funny to picture.
It says any equipment the giant is wearing or carrying is absorbed by the new form. So I would say it probably couldn't do the Morning Star attack. Yeah,
sure.
Hopefully that wouldn't come up anyways.
Right.
For the Morning Star, I guess it is a little bit interesting. It's got a neat mechanic to it. It's plus 12 to hit, 3d8 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, but the attack deals an extra 4d6 damage if the giant has advantage on the attack roll. So playing into that trickery aspect, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of great ways to give itself advantage.
No, it doesn't. Tasha's Hideous Laughter would be one way.
Right. And then invisibility for one attack. They don't have greater. It's just regular invisibility.
Yeah, so a couple of ways. Nothing too great. A lot of setup just for like one good attack. If anything, It'd be like the first attack you get this extra damage afterwards. It's probably not worth chasing again. And the rock basically does the same thing. It's got its 4d10 plus 8 damage, and then an additional 4d6 if it has advantage. So, yeah, again, I think I mainly see this one as a big bad evil guy is the only way I can put it.
Yep.
And
same.
For that, it'd be pretty
that's
cool.
why you would fight it, because you realize, okay, this thing now needs to die.
Right.
That sort
Or
of
you
thing.
could
And
get
then
like
it would
a
probably
cloud giant hires you to assassinate it.
That's good, too.
Because it does kind of explicate how they're not really, nobody really likes these dudes.
Right, they're
So I
creepy.
can see a cloud giant being like, I can't kill one of my own kind, but I can hire the rats in my larder to go and try.
Right. And, if this thing tricked that giant out of money or in a deal or something like that, and they found out exactly what you were saying, like the smiling one needs to die, and if I go and do it, it looks really bad. So,
Right.
or you make it very convoluted, and they just like have a bet around the smiling one dying. And so they're conscripting you to help, but you got to keep it on the down low and make it look totally random. Otherwise, they'll lose their bet. That's just dumb. Sorry. Cloud Giants as a whole, I mean, I think you hit it pretty early on, Kevin. Just like not a ton of reasons to interact with them until you're super high level and you just want to. If you're just the DM and you're like, I want to have Cloud Giants. Great. Okay.
Right. Or one of them has some grand scheme and they need non-giants to help interact with. Like, that's what kicked off Storm King's Thunder.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, we got picked up by Cloud Giant and his flying castle. And kind of like, that's who set us on the quest.
Yeah. And I'd say more, but it might end up being spoilers for like a decade-old adventure. But, people can play it at any time. A lot of thoughts on Storm King's Thunder. I don't know how old it is.
Why does he have
It's not a
vampire
decade, but-
teeth?
Who, the
What?
smiling one?
The storm giant.
Wait, we're not on this. You're jumping ahead.
We're on
Or no,
Storm
the Cloud
Giant now. Which,
Oh, the
Cloud
Cloud
Giant.
Giant. Okay. Oh, in the Monster Manual. You're right. It does have vampire teeth. That's weird.
that's very vampiric.
I've been thinking about this for like 10 years.
How old is 5th edition anyways?
I think it's like 6 years. Maybe 7.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 7, I think. I don't think there's an explanation. They're not vampires. They have no association with vampires. Maybe that's how you can tell.
But they are trickery.
Sure. I feel like that's not the first thing I jump to with vampires. Like, I get that they're tricksters, but it's not like they're, I don't know, specifically deceivers. I think they just thought it looked cool and it got approved, and then nobody really questioned it from there.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, he's got some tusk teeth. Or they're lip rings.
Oh.
And they're trying to, again, show off the extravagance. I think that's actually it. I think they're lip rings.
I can see that. Where'd Will go?
He's just disappeared.
I'm just staring really close to see what else is going on.
they're lip rings, right? It just has this kind of open mouth. I wish its mouth was totally closed, because then I'd be like, yeah, those are lip rings. But instead it's like a little bit open.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be lip rings.
Okay, we've cracked the case, guys. They're not vampires.
All right, time to move on to the final ones.
Final one, Storm Giants.
Storm Giants. So yeah, Storm Giants. These are the big ones. Quite literally, 26 feet tall. Insane. Yeah, we were recently we were talking about giant sizes when we were talking about like, oh, couldn't you like squeeze? This was like a few episodes ago. Like they'll squeeze through their locks and pick it that way. And we were saying, oh, they're actually not that tall. They're only like 14, 15 feet tall. We were very wrong on that.
That's just the hill giants. Yeah,
are 16 feet, and yeah, Storm Giants get all the way up to 26 feet. Just towering.
Yeah.
Though still only huge, not gargantuan. But yeah, these are the top of the ordering, though they don't really act like it. They live very solitary lives from other giants and each other. They are obsessed with prophecy. They are the second longest living of the giants at 600 years. Stone Giants being the one that would live 800 years. And they are oracles. They look for signs and everything, and they believe the signs of the return of the Allfather and what will be able to bring back their great empire will come about. There's like these 4 things within each element that they look for, and they just have not seen it yet. Because they are so long-lived and so detached, they really usually cannot bring themselves to care about anything that's going on. Out of all of the giants, these are the ones that you're the least likely to interact with. They will often live at the bottom of the ocean or at the top of the highest peak, or some even in the clouds, above the clouds.
Such a flex on cloud giants.
Right? I say, yeah.
Not even intentional. Like, they don't care. They're just doing it because it makes sense. But I'm sure cloud giants are there just shaking their fists at the storm giants who are a few hundred feet above them. Right.
In line of the metaphor and symbolism of being storm giants, they have a great temper. If they are chaotic good, but their temper could be brought out, and they could bring just terrible wrath down on those around them, destroying like entire cities because someone from that city brought their temper out. And they will often later feel bad about it and apologize and try and make it right with sacks and sacks of gold. But that's usually not going to quite do it.
Sacks of gold so big they accidentally destroy another house. Oh, right. Just throw a couple on.
In terms of their internal ordering, it is all on omens. It's those who see the most omens and interpret, or like the omens tell them where they fit within their own ordering. And that sounds like rife for abuse, but it just does not sound like that happens. They just kind of follow it. Everyone just sort of knows how to work it out.
I think it is actually abused, specifically in Storm King's Thunder.
Okay.
Where
I feel like Storm King's Thunder is like the exception to everything, because that's like everything was thrown in chaos.
Right, and that was the point. It's the whole thing about them being in chaos. I mean, that's why they give you lore, though, is that you can say like, but not this time. Otherwise, everything works out fine.
Right. Yeah, there's omens that accompany individuals, and they all decipher what it means, and one figures out where they fit.
One thing I wanted to discuss is you said earlier that they don't really act like they are at the top of the ordering. I would actually counter that to some extent, because they act exactly how I'd expect people who are confident in their place would act. They don't feel the need to be like cloud giants who are second place and they're vying for more attention, trying to gather extravagance. They're just here in their little alcoves looking at omens all day, and they're like, yeah, we're the best. What? Why are you still trying?
Right.
There's no reason
That's
to
a
fight.
good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, they don't command others, though. They don't give out rulings and things like that.
Right, but that's like, as from what I've been gathering, not really the job of the giants, or like the top of the storm of the ordning. It's not to disseminate commands. It's to just be in your place. And if it arises, you know who to report to.
Right.
And I think that's actually explained pretty well, because the ordning is kind of a relic of a bygone era. So this leadership that once existed to talk down the ordning hasn't in millennia. Yeah. So the storm giants are almost this kind of, they don't know what to do because they're the closest to this issue. A hill giant doesn't even know what the ordning is.
Right.
A storm giant is the leader of nothing in a way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It goes on to say that since Anam abandoned them, there has been no sole king or emperor over the giants. And that's the omens that they're looking for. According to legend, the arrival of such a leader will be presaged by signs and omens in all of the elements of the world, the air, water, earth, and fire. And that is what they are looking for. And it is yet to happen. And so, yeah, maybe if that ever happens, then there's an emperor of the storm giants, and they will then exert rule over the rest. But yeah, until then, yeah, as you pointed out, it's rulers of nothing. And this is probably the biggest reason of why adventurers will interact with them. The storm giants contact them, and the storm giants want them to investigate this possibility of an omen.
Sure.
And find the signs for them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I'd like to say I came up with it, but it's the last paragraph, so it's the example of Volo's.
You're literally so smart, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if the storm giants see an omen and the party is involved, they're good for that measure. Like basically they're seeing it and they're also getting them involved. Again, that's probably not leading to a fight, but hopefully, unless you've got those kinds of adventurers. But yeah, I do see some interaction. To some extent, I almost see it more than cloud giants. But not, again, in a let's fight aspect as much as it is. Like, there are reasons for storm giants to still look down upon humans, but at least recognize their place in the world and saying, yeah, humanoids have a pretty big effect on everything. They are part of our omens. They're part of the world, and we can't ignore that. Where cloud giants seem more arrogant and pompous about that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. This the storm giant hooked up like them, like hiring you to go investigate something. Sounds like it could make some really cool quests. It says it's dangerous for two reasons. The one is these tasks usually involve delving into Austerian runes that have been sealed for millennia. So it's like an ancient rune of the giant empire, which has not been touched. And so you could probably do a really cool, unique dungeon.
Yeah.
Off of that.
Just going upstairs. It'd be an absolute
it'd be like a 6-week trip.
Right. All right, so the stat block, the base one in the Monster Manual is a challenge rating 13, 16 AC, 230 hit points, 50 walk speed and swim speed, strength of 29, so the strongest if I recall.
Yep.
Its lowest stat is 14 dex, so they're pretty insane. 20 con, 18 wisdom and charisma, 16 intelligence. Almost every straight saving throw. It does not have pluses to dex or intelligence, but the rest, plus 14 strength, plus 10 con. Yeah, really good saving throws.
Yeah.
Skills in Arcana, Athletics, History, and Perception. Resistance to cold, immunity to lightning and thunder. It's amphibious, so it can breathe air and water, and it has innate spell casting with a DC of 17. At will, it can do Detect Magic, Featherfall, Levitate, or Light. In 3 days, 3 times a day, Control Weather, or Water Breathing.
I love the idea that it ever need those spells 3 times a day. Control Weather is an 8-hour spell.
Right.
Why do you need that 3 times a day? Oh, they can control it.
How many hours are they in a day?
Yep. You got me.
Yeah, yep. Water breathing, I assume, would be a boon to, like, you hire somebody. They hired the adventure party and cast water breathing on them for 24 hours.
The small things I keep hiring for my adventures keep drowning while I'm explaining the plan. What's going on?
Yes.
Yeah. It's at will stuff is detect magic, lights, feather fall, fine. Levitate's kind of neat, I guess. I guess that's fitting for a storm giant.
Just imagine it just casting it on itself every 10 minutes so that it can keep levitating and looking intimidating.
Right.
Could you all look away? I need to recast my spell.
Right. All right, and then its actions. It has the multi-attack of 2 great sword attacks, plus 14 to hit, reach of 10 feet, 66 plus 9 slashing damage, so putting the fire giants to shame. Then I can throw a rock for 4d12. It's not a d10. It's 4d12 plus 9 bludgeoning damage.
And their rocks have coral on them.
Yeah. And then it has a lightning strike. This is a unique action. It's a recharge of 5 or 6. It hurls a magical lightning bolt at a point it can see within 500 feet. Each creature within that point, within 10 feet of that point, makes a DC 17 dex save, or it takes 12d8 lightning damage on a failed, half as much on a success. So finally, we got a Monster Manual giant stat block that got a little interesting.
Yep. This is the first one that I was like, I don't know if I'd change anything. I think it's actually fine.
Yeah, and it's the one you're least likely to fight.
Right.
It's like, they're not like particularly evil. They're not, if they're interacting with people, it's just to like investigate omens. They're not manipulating humans behind the scenes for their evil benefits or trying to steal their treasure. Yeah. Only thing I
was going to say, they're even chaotic good. I don't know if we specifically mentioned that.
Yeah. I could see some sort of thing where it talks about their temper and that they could destroy like a village. That happening, them trying to make good on it, and the party not accepting that. And it's like, no, they need to be brought to justice and go and hunting the storm giant down, which is also just like a ridiculously hard task to do.
Right.
Like it could literally be at the bottom of the ocean.
Yep.
And often are.
So, yeah, I think the only thing that I would change about the stat block, and this is more just like flavor and literally nothing else, is just changing the greatsword damage into partially lightning, just because.
That'd be neat.
Yeah, and like sense. That's not something that it's like, oh, this is a horrible fight unless you do that. Right. It's just kind of like, let's give it more lightning.
Right. Yeah, and its lightning strike is scary. That's a lot. 12d8 lightning damage.
Yeah.
Within 500 feet.
So it's funny, we are talking about all these like reasons why you wouldn't fight it. And in our like short mini campaign, I did it in my world. I had you guys fight a storm giant. Obviously it's my world, my campaign. I totally do not have any of this specific lore to them. But that one was basically, for the sake of that campaign, I just wanted you guys to fight it.
Right. That was a cool fight.
I just thought it'd be neat. So there's your other option always. I just think it'd be neat. I don't know, have something like mind control them. It'd be super difficult. How could that ever happen? Because I wanted it to.
Right, yeah. All right, and then some storm giants get obsessed with not dying. So all of them want to live to see the return of Amon and the proper emperor over the giants and all that. And as some of them approach death, get terrified of that notion, especially of how long-lived their lives are. And so they look for ways of immortality. And some will manage this by kind of infusing their essence with a storm and becoming part of the storm and becoming a storm giant quintessent. So this is stuff like a blizzard that rages unendingly around a mountain peak, the vortex that swirls around a remote island, or the thunderstorm that howls ceaselessly up and down a rugged coastline could in fact be the undying form of a stone giant clinging to existence. Not actually a whole lot more lore to that.
Yeah.
So these are even more removed from the rest of giant society, even more so than the other storm giants. It does have the ability to take its original form though, but it is temporary. It cannot permanently stay that way. These have a cool stat block. So challenge rating 16, only an armor class of 12, hit points of 230, and then as a fly walk, and swim speed all to 50 feet. Its stats are basically the same as the other Storm Giant, I think.
Basically, some stuff moved around, not important.
Yes. Yeah, same high saving throws, damage resistance to cold, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, damage immunities to lightning and thunder, also amphibious.
And it is True Sight. True Sight, that's important to point out.
True Sight to 60 feet, yes. Does the other one? I might have misread that.
Nope.
No, it does not. Okay. All right, multi-attack makes 2 lightning sword attacks or use wind javelin twice. So its lightning sword is plus 14 to hit, reach of 15 feet, and does 96 plus 9 lightning damage. Heck of a hit, but it's challenge rating 16, so.
Right. This thing's it has legendary actions. It is a legendary creature.
Yes. Or it has its wind javelin, which is really, really interesting. At first it seems really crappy, but the giant coalesces wind into a javelin-like form and hurls it at a creature within 600 feet. The javelin is considered a magic weapon and deals 3d6 plus 9 piercing damage to the target, striking unerringly, and then disappears after it hits, so it can do that twice. So it's obviously a lot lower damage, but it is a guaranteed hit. This can't miss. This cannot be avoided. It's not even like magic missiles where shield could end it. It's just within 600 feet, something takes 3d6 plus 9 damage, and it can do that twice.
Yeah. That's something
I feel like you don't
with.
see that just kind of like guaranteed hit stuff much.
I don't think ever. I can't recall a single other time that I've seen that.
Yeah, magic missiles is the closest.
Right.
And that's obviously a lot less damage.
What, 3d4 plus 3? You're saying that's less damage?
Yeah. Actually, it's not. I guess that's not that much less, but
it can do it twice. Yeah.
And 600 feet.
I don't have anything else to really say around its normal actions beyond just, yep, that does a lot of damage. And it's going to hit you. You have no way around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it got rid of the spellcasting, but I guess that's somewhat in the legendary actions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, this thing seems less composed. Spellcasting to me seems like it needs to have a level of self, and this seems like that has just gone entirely. It's almost like it is a storm, just in giant.
Yeah, why
form.
would it need to control the weather? It is the weather.
It is the weather. Yeah, that's
Right.
basically it. And it has some ways to do its gust, and one with the storm where
Right.
it casts control weather. Or no, sorry, it's layer actions. That's what I was thinking of, which it does have
Right.
layer actions. And the layer actions have to deal with some of that stuff and how it affects the regional effects, yada, yada, yada. As Will said,
Right.
it doesn't need to cast spells. All of those innate abilities are just exploded in those different legendary areas.
Right. All right. So it does get legendary actions. Typical kind of format for them. 3 points, 3 actions, and between other creatures' turns. At the end of another creature's turns, it can do one of these legendary actions. One of these is Gust. The giant targets a creature within 60 feet. It sends Gust of Wind towards it. The target must succeed on DC 18 Strength save or be pushed up to 20 feet in any horizontal direction the giant chooses. Or it can do a Thunderbolt. This costs 2 of its actions. It throws a Thunderbolt within 600 feet at a creature it can see, and they must succeed on DC 18 Dex saving throw or take 40-10 thunder damage on a failed, half as much on a success. Or they can do one with a storm, which takes up all 3 actions. The giant vanishes, dispersing itself into the storm surrounding its lair. The giant cannot affect the start of any of its turns, becoming a giant once more and appearing in any location it chooses within its lair. Well dispersed, it can't take any actions other than layer actions, and it can't be targeted by attack spells or other effects. The giant can't use this ability outside its lair, nor can it use its ability if another creature is using a control weather spell to quell the storm.
So it has crazy movement from that one with the storm, and if there's any magical effect that you have put it under, it can basically just say, I'm going to move somewhere else. So it can't take actions. It can't be targeted by attacks or spells or other effects. So if you had some type of effect on this thing and it did its one with the storm, you'd probably just say, like, no, nothing affects it.
I think the effect would stay. It says it can't be targeted.
Sure. So you think
But
if
if
it
you
already
already
had
got-
something,
Yeah.
that's fair. I could see it doing that just to like wait out the thing, like if there was a save at the end of its turn every time,
Right.
instead of being held, which would probably be a little tough to hold this thing with a +10 wisdom, but it's always possible. It could do its one with the storm and just basically wait until it's no longer held.
Right.
Or it could just camp there and thunderbolt people.
Yeah, that too.
Well, it can only do layer actions, right?
I figured he meant not with
guess.
one with the storm. If you do one with the storm, you are correct. You can only do layer actions, but if it's held, it can still do its legendary actions.
Right.
Yeah, it does thunderclaps. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's layer actions. That's 3 of them. Works as any other layer action. You can't do the same one twice in a row. Yeah. So one is, and this happens on this should count 20. The giant creates a thunderclap centered on a point anywhere in its layer. Each creature within 20 feet of that point succeeds on an 18 con saving throw or be deafened.
Which isn't anything, to be honest. Deafen doesn't do much at all. You automatically fail anything that requires hearing, which is
Not much.
Yeah.
It actually might help with some spells, like you can no longer be impacted by like dissonant whispers.
Sure.
You can't be charmed by a lot of things. I think you're immune to vicious mockery. Maybe, but yeah. Next one, the giant creates a 20-foot radius sphere fog or murky water within water, centered on a point anywhere in the layer. The sphere spreads around corners and the area is heavily obscured. The fog lasts until the giant disperses it. And it can't be dispersed by wind. So an area of heavily obscured that's essentially blinded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely a lot of the good use there. Because they have true sight, so it will not impact them.
And javelins that don't care about how
obscure
the area is.
Yeah, they have to be able to see, but yeah.
Sure. So as long as it's within 60 feet, they've got true sight.
Right.
They can see.
Right. Yep. And the last one, the giant creates a 60-foot long, 10-foot wide line of strong wind or strong water current originating from a point anywhere in its layer. Each creature in that line must succeed on a DC 18 strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet in the direction it is blowing. This disperses gas or vapor and extinguishes various flames. That's really it.
Yeah, that's the extent of it. So, I mean, it's nothing too crazy. I feel like this creature as a whole, as much damage as it can do, comes across as an environmental trap more than a monster to fight.
Right.
Where I could see the party needing to get somewhere, and this thing is in the way, and it doesn't feel like fighting a giant in the classical sense. It feels like you're fighting a storm, and it keeps pushing you back, and your martial characters are trying to get close, and they're not able to because this thing has like 5 ways of pushing you back, and that's like half the fight.
Right. Yeah, I think for this to really feel like it's making the most of it is you would need to set up kind of traps and hazards in the layer.
As I was thinking too.
Because a lot of this stuff just kind of pushes you around, and if it's sort of just kind of like that void cube room, it's not really going to matter that much that you're being pushed around because it's like giving up actions and stuff to do that.
Right.
Instead of just doing damage. So if it's this complicated maze type of layer with multiple tiers and levels, and there's razor sharp coral all over the place that you could be damaged if you're thrown into it, or pools of boiling water, or whatever's applicable to
lightning balls.
Yeah,
mountains to be thrown off of.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, honestly,
sure.
yeah. Just high up things to be thrown off of whatever. That'll make all of its abilities really come alive. Otherwise, it's going to feel a little lackluster. It's
Right.
like, oh, you pushed me back 20 feet.
Right. Yeah, the only way that it's all in the setup. If for some reason this creature is trying to accomplish something, and so you need to get to it to stop it, then it pushing you back will be very annoying and will be an ordeal. But otherwise, as you said, like if you're just pushing it, no environmental damage, no nothing. It's just keeping you at bay so it can continue to do damage, and you can't do damage as well. And that's not a very fun fight. But man, it's really cool. again,
It is.
the idea of fighting a storm is awesome.
We did an episode on those.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
The
Elder Elementals.
that was it.
That was a 4-part thing, yeah.
And that basically was fighting storms.
For some of them.
Some of them, yeah. Like the
Yeah.
wind one and the
Water.
water one.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are storm giants. I don't really see the quintessence being used with the other storm giants. They seem like they'd be kind of almost separate entities at that point.
Yeah, again, I view them as almost just barriers to a goal. And I don't know, because they don't seem like they have much purpose as to why they are where they are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and these are also chaotic good.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think they just become like true neutral.
I would think just true chaotic.
Yeah, or yeah.
I don't know if
That
that's
makes sense.
whatever it is.
Chaotic neutral, yeah.
Sure, that's it. Chaotic neutral. Yeah, and you know, it's just if your party's trying to get to an island, and while they're getting there, it's a high-level campaign, and nobody goes to this island because there's a constant storm, so they have to fight this to get to the island, and they're like fighting on a ship while this thing's in the water. And there's like a lot of cool setups there, and I don't see anything that makes this more than just a fight or an obstacle to overcome. It's hard for me to view this thing as having specific goals and motives and needing to ask the party for anything. It's just, this is what happens to storm giants when they're about to die. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what they do on purpose to try and live forever. So I
Right.
guess they would still have the same interest in deciphering omens and maybe wanting to hire the party.
Yeah, I guess so.
Decipher them. I mean, they're still 17 intelligence, still speak common.
It
Can-
says, can communicate with a
leave-
mortal, carry out a short
Yeah.
task.
Yeah, I mean, they do leave their storm form. So yeah, I don't know, maybe they're not even shunned from other storm giants. Maybe other storm giants just kind of shrug and say, yeah, that's Bob. He couldn't really let go, so he now terrorizes that island, but you know, no one lives there, so it's cool.
Right. Well, they don't live there anymore. Bob took care of that. But yeah, that's everything I've got on giants.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, that did end up being a big giant episode. Yeah, it'll be definitely 2 parts on YouTube. Podcast, you get the whole thing because that's how podcasts work. So.
Yeah. What do you care?
Hey, my cat finally showed up. He's left me alone. It felt like he was missing. Now he's here. He's basically I feel like he's got to be the mascot of the show at this point, Mr. Bear.
I thought that was
The
Will.
Monsters
The most
Multiclass
generic looking
Kevin.
cat ever. I am a much better mascot.
We can like shave Will in funny ways, make him look silly.
That'll be great.
He really is climbing all over though. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say?
No.
No.
I think you should talk about one of our affiliates, though. But no, I am all gianted out.
Same here.
I am glad we just did this in one episode, though, instead of dragging this out over like a 6-part series.
For sure.
So, yeah.
And you know what doesn't feel dragged out? This promotional minute. Let's see. Affiliate. Describe. So they are a website that you can go to, get a subscription with, and they have tons of pre-written descriptions for whatever it is that you are adventuring in. So very great resource for DMs to pull these pre-written descriptions, flesh out your world, much more interesting than what you come up with. Or if you're like me and you're just making tons and tons of decisions as a DM and you get to a new thing you have to describe and you're like, I just can't do it. I've thought of so much today. You just look up a description and there it is, done for you. You can go ahead and get 10% off your subscription using the code MM10. So go do that. Support Describe. They're great. Hey.
And then like, subscribe, ring the bell, stick around, watch other videos.
Yeah, this is the end of the episode.
Yeah, we're done. I'm losing my voice. This
It's so long.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.